The biting wind howled through Wolf Haven village as Lysandra Nightwhisper pressed herself against the bakery's rough wooden wall, striving for invisibility. Her empty stomach twisted with a painful ache, 3 days without a proper meal, but she compelled herself to remain motionless. The last thing she needed was to attract the attention of the Alpha enforcers on their patrol. "Pathetic Omega filth," someone spat as they passed, not even deigning to look directly at her. Lysandra kept her silver eyes downcast, her tangled midnight hair falling forward to conceal her face. She had learned long ago that making eye contact with higher-ranking wolves only invited trouble. In the northern territories of Valdis, your wolf determined everything. Alphas ruled, betas served, and omegas merely survived. Landry had been surviving for 23 years, ever since her parents perished in the territorial wars. Without pack protection, without family standing, she existed on scraps and seasonal labor. The other wolves could smell her omega nature, weak, they called it, worthless, and treated her accordingly. But today would be different. Today, she had a plan. The Moonrise Festival was commencing in Iron Hold Citadel, the fortress where King Ka Frostborn held his court. For 1 week each year, the strict boundaries between wolf franks supposedly dissolved. Even omegas could enter the citadel grounds to trade, seek employment, or petition the Alpha King himself. Landry touched the worn leather pouch at her hip. Inside lay 3 precious silver coins. Her entire savings from a year of mending garments and cleaning residences. It would be enough to procure medicine for Zapira, her younger sister, whose lungs rattled with each breath. The healer in Wolf Haven had ceased treating them months ago when they could no longer afford it, but surely someone at the festival would offer assistance. It was strange how quickly her body seemed to recover from the minor injuries life inflicted upon her. Cuts that should have taken days to heal vanished overnight. Bruises faded within hours. She had always attributed it to youth, to sheer determination, never questioning why her healing appeared swifter than others. "You're going to the Citadel," a familiar voice startled her. Morai Ashfang emerged from the shadows, his scarred face twisted into a smirk. The alpha male had tormented her for years, finding amusement in reminding her of her lowly position. "The festival is open to all wolves," Lysandra stated softly, still avoiding his gaze. "All wolves?" "Indeed," Morai chuckled, the sound sharp as shattering glass. "But you barely qualify as one. When did you last shift, Omega? Can you even manage it anymore?" Heat flooded her cheeks. She had been unable to shift for 2 years. Malnutrition and stress had weakened her wolf to a near-silent state. It was the ultimate disgrace for their kind. "Leave her alone, Morai," an elderly beta woman called from across the square. "The king's decree protects all during festival week." "The king." Morai scoffed but stepped back. "Our illustrious ruler, who refuses to take a mate, refuses to produce heirs. Some say his wolf went dormant when he was barely 20, that he can't feel the mate bond at all." He turned back to Landry with cruel amusement. "Perhaps you should petition him, little Omega, a broken wolf for a frozen one." The other wolves in the square laughed, the sound following Landry as she hurried away toward the mountain path. Let them laugh. She wasn't going to petition the king. She simply needed to find one healer willing to exchange medicine for silver. The journey to Iron Hold Citadel took 6 hours on foot. By the time Lysandra reached the fortress gates, her worn boots had completely split, leaving her feet bleeding. Yet, as she paused to examine the damage, she noticed the cuts were already closing, the pain receding faster than it should. She shook her head. Exhaustion was making her imagine things. The colossal structure loomed before her like a mountain of black stone and iron, impossibly vast, impossibly cold. Alpha guards flanked the entrance, their eyes scrutinizing every movement. As Lysandra approached, one of them actually recoiled. "Omega," he announced, loud enough for all to hear. "Omega, entering the grounds." Heads turned, conversations ceased. Lysandra felt the weight of dozens of gazes as wolves of every rank took notice. Some curious, most disgusted, all judging. She pulled her patched cloak tighter and hurried through the gates. The festival sprawled across the citadel's outer courtyard in a spectacle of color and sound. Merchants hawked their wares, musicians played, and wolves in their animal forms raced through designated tracks. The aroma of roasted meat made her stomach clench painfully, but she ignored it, searching for the healer's tents. That's when she felt it. A pull so sudden and violent it nearly brought her to her knees. Her wolf, silent for so long, suddenly surged to life within her. No longer weak or quiet, but raging, desperate, clawing at her insides with a need she had never experienced. Her vision sharpened, her hearing intensified, and every instinct screamed one word: mate. No, Lysandra whispered, horror flooding through her. Not here, not now. The crowd suddenly parted, wolves dropping to their knees in deference. Through the sea of bowed heads, she saw him. King Ka Frostborn stood on the citadel's grand balcony, addressing the festival crowd. Even from this distance, his presence was overwhelming. Tall, broad-shouldered, with hair so pale it seemed spun from moonlight itself. Power radiated from him in waves that made the air feel heavy. At 50 years of age, he bore the weight of 30 years without his wolf's full presence, yet remained the strongest alpha anyone had ever seen. But it was his eyes that ensnared her. Pale as winter frost, colder than the mountain peaks, they swept across the crowd with detached authority, until they found her. The world stopped. Lysandra witnessed the exact moment recognition struck him, his controlled expression fracturing, those frigid eyes widening in shock. His massive frame went rigid, his hands gripping the balcony's stone railing so hard she heard it crack from across the courtyard. Then his wolf's presence slammed into her like an avalanche. Where hers was desperate and yearning, his was furious, a primal rage at finding what he had never desired. An omega, the lowest of the low, his mate. "Find her!" The king's voice boomed across the courtyard, but Landre was already fleeing. She crashed through the throng, her weakened body suddenly flooded with adrenaline. Behind her, she heard chaos erupting, guards shouting, wolves transforming. The king's beta, Thaddeus Iron Moon, barking orders. But loudest of all was the sound that would forever haunt her. King Ka's roar of fury upon realizing his mate was fleeing from him. Lysandra darted into the narrow alleys between merchant stalls, her heart hammering against her ribs. She had heard tales of wolves who rejected the mate bond, who fought against fate's selection. But she had never heard of an alpha king's wolf choosing an omega. This could not be happening. She had come here to save her sister, not to become entangled with the most powerful and reportedly coldest wolf in all of Valdris. A hand grasped her arm, yanking her behind a tent. Lysandra almost cried out before recognizing the elderly woman who had aided her in Wolfhaven. "Sana," Lysandra gasped. "What are you?" "Hush, child." The woman's eyes were wild with urgency. "Do you have any idea what you have just done?" "The king's wolf went dormant 30 years ago when he was barely 20. The entire kingdom believes he's cursed." "I didn't mean—" "But you woke it up," Sana interrupted. "An omega who awakened the alpha king's wolf. This will either be a miracle or a massacre." Heavy footsteps thundered closer. "The king's guard." "They'll find you," Sana whispered. "His wolf won't rest until it claims what it considers its own. But listen carefully. There is something you need to know about why his wolf went dormant." The tent beside them exploded into shreds as a massive white wolf burst through. Lysandra's breath hitched. She had never seen a wolf so large, so magnificent, so terrifying. Eyes like frozen lakes locked onto hers with laser focus. The Alpha King had shifted to hunt her personally. And in those predatory eyes, she saw not just anger at finding an Omega mate, but something far more dangerous. Hunger. Desperate, ravenous hunger, as if his wolf had been starving for 30 years and had finally found sustenance. Landra's wolf whimpered in response, torn between submission and terror. The king took a step forward, and everyone in the vicinity dropped to their bellies in reverence. Everyone except Landre, who stood frozen as death itself approached, in the form of white fur and barely contained violence. This was it, The moment that would alter everything. The Alpha King, who never desired a mate, had found her, and his wolf had become entirely feral. The massive white wolf's muscles coiled, poised to pounce. Landra's mind screamed at her to run, but her traitorous Omega nature yearned to bare her throat in submission. She did neither, paralyzed between instinct and terror. "Your Majesty, please." Sana stepped forward, her aged voice steady despite the peril. "The girl does not comprehend. She has been packless for years." The king's wolf snarled, a sound that vibrated through Landra's bones. His massive head swung toward the elderly woman, lips pulling back to reveal fangs as long as her fingers. That broken moment was all Landra needed. She bolted. Behind her came an enraged howl that shattered windows in nearby structures. The Alpha King gave chase, his powerful form devouring the ground between them with terrifying speed. Lysandra's malnourished body screamed in protest as she pushed it beyond its limits, weaving through market stalls and leaping over barrels. She could feel him gaining, his presence like ice against her back, his fury a physical weight pressing down on her. Her wolf whined desperately, yearning to submit to their mate. But Landra's human mind knew better. An Alpha King would never accept an Omega mate. He would kill her for the insult to his bloodline, or worse, confine her to prevent anyone from discovering his wolf had chosen so poorly. A narrow passage between two stone buildings appeared ahead. Lysandra dove for it, knowing her smaller stature was her only advantage. She heard the king's wolf skid on cobblestones, too large to follow immediately. It granted her seconds at most. She emerged in the citadel's inner courtyard, where hundreds of higher-ranking wolves had assembled for the festival's opening ceremony. They scattered in shock as she burst through, followed moments later by their transformed king. "Nobody move," Thaddeus Ironmoon's voice rang out. The king's beta stood on a platform, his amber eyes calculating. "Let his majesty handle this." Lysandra wanted to scream at the injustice. Handle this? As if she were a rabid animal to be put down. She spotted a servant's entrance to the citadel proper and sprinted for it, but white fur flashed in her peripheral vision. The king had circled around, cutting off her escape. He stalked toward her slowly now, certain of victory. The crowd formed a living wall around them, no egress. His crystalline gaze held a predatory intelligence that made her knees weak. Then, something unexpected occurred. The king's wolf stopped just out of reach and began to shift. The transformation was mesmerizing. White fur receding, bones reshaping, until King Ka Frostborn stood before her in human form. He wore only loose trousers, his chest bare despite the mountain cold, revealing scars from countless battles. His pale hair fell past his shoulders, and those devastating eyes had not warmed a single degree. "Omega," his voice was winter wind-given sound, controlled, but with dangerous undertones. "You run from your king." "I run from a wolf who wants me dead," Lysandra managed, her voice barely a whisper. Something flickered in his expression. Surprise. "Dead? You think I would kill my own?" He cut himself off, jaw clenching. "You know nothing of what you've done." "Then enlighten me, your majesty." The words escaped before she could stop them. Years of suppressed anger lent her courage. "Tell me why the great Alpha King is hunting a worthless Omega through his own citadel." Gasps echoed through the crowd. Nobody spoke to the king in such a manner, especially not an Omega. Kykes took a step forward, and Landra's wolf immediately cowered within her. His power was suffocating this close, like standing in a blizzard. 30 years, he said quietly, but his voice carried to every ear. "For 30 years, since I was 20, my wolf has been dormant, nearly dead." The healer said it was dying, taking my ability to feel the mate bond with it. The kingdom needs an heir, but I couldn't feel what every wolf is born knowing. His gaze bored into hers. "Then you walked through my gates, Omega, and my wolf didn't just wake, it exploded to life, screaming one word." He paused, the muscle in his jaw ticking. "Mine." The crowd's shock was palpable. Lysandra felt the blood drain from her face. "But I'm weak, packless Omega." Kykes' laugh was bitter. Yes, you are all of those things. The moon goddess has a twisted sense of humor, pairing the strongest alpha in Valdris with the weakest wolf in the territories. The words cut deeper than claws. Lysandra's eyes burned with unshed tears, but she refused to weep before these people who already considered her nothing. Then reject me, she said, lifting her chin despite her terror. Reject the bond and let me go. The king became completely still. When he spoke, his voice had lowered to something dangerous. Reject the bond? After 30 years of feeling nothing, he moved closer, and she caught his scent. Pine forests and winter storms and something wild that made her wolf keen with longing. My wolf would tear me apart from the inside. Your Majesty, Thaddeus interrupted carefully, perhaps we should continue this discussion privately. Silence. Kykes never looked away from Landry. The Omega comes with me. No. Landry stepped back, only to collide with the wall of watching wolves. I won't be your prisoner. Prisoner? The king's pale gaze flashed. You're my mate. A mate you clearly despise, the words burst out, years of rejection and pain fueling her defiance. I won't be kept in some tower while you pretend I don't exist. I won't be your shameful secret. Her words were cut off as the king moved with inhuman speed, backing her against a stone pillar. He didn't touch her, but his presence enveloped her completely. This close, she could see gold flecks in his frost-colored eyes, could feel heat radiating from his skin despite his cold reputation. Listen carefully, little Omega. His voice was soft, but somehow more terrifying for it. My wolf has been dormant for 3 decades. Now it wants to claim you here. Before everyone, consequences be damned. The only reason you're still standing unclaimed is my control. Control that is rapidly failing. Landra's wolf practically purred at the promise in his words, even as her human side trembled. I don't understand. No, you don't. His hand rose to hover near her face, not quite touching. You don't understand that without my wolf, I've been slowly dying. You don't understand that you've given me back something I thought lost forever. And you certainly don't understand what it means when an Alpha King's wolf chooses someone after 30 years of silence. Then tell me, she whispered. His eyes darkened, pupils dilating. It means you're not just my mate, Omega. You're my wolf's salvation. And if you run again, his voice dropped to a growl, I won't be responsible for what happens when I catch you. Before Landra could respond, a new voice cut through the tension. Well, well, the cursed king finally found his mate. Morai Ashvong pushed through the crowd, other alpha wolves flanking him. His scarred face held malicious amusement. And what a mate she is, he continued. Tell me, Your Majesty, how does it feel knowing your wolf chose damaged goods? She can't even shift anymore. Ka turned slowly, and the temperature seemed to drop 10 degrees. You dare speak of my mate? I speak the truth, Morai shrugged. She's been Omega trash in Wolf Haven for years. Weak, pathetic, probably hasn't had a proper meal in months. Your wolf must be more broken than we thought to choose. He never finished the sentence. The king's hand wrapped around Morai's throat before anyone could blink. The scarred alpha's feet left the ground as Ka lifted him effortlessly, his pale eyes now glowing with an inhuman light. You touched her. The king's voice was barely human, more wolf than man. You tormented what is mine. Morai clawed at the king's grip, his face turning purple. The other alphas who had come with him backed away rapidly, sensing death in the air. Your Majesty, Thaddeus stepped forward cautiously. The law! The law says I can kill anyone who threatens my mate, Ka snarled. His fingers tightened and Morai's eyes bulged. Stop! Landra's voice rang out before she could think better of it. Please don't kill him because of me. The king's head snapped toward her, and for a moment she saw something feral in his gaze, his wolf barely contained. Then, slowly, he released Morai, who collapsed, gasping. You beg mercy for someone who tormented you? Kykes' voice held dangerous curiosity. Death won't change what he did, Lysandra said quietly, and I won't have blood spilled in my name. The king studied her for a long moment, then turned back to Morai. You live because my mate wishes it. But if you speak her name again, if you come within 100 yards of her, I'll tear your throat out with my teeth." His voice dropped to sub-zero temperatures. "And I'll make it last." Morai scrambled away, his supporters helping him flee. The crowd began to disperse, whispering frantically about what they had witnessed. The Frozen King defending an Omega, nearly killing an Alpha for insulting her. "Come," Ka commanded, turning back to Landre. "We have matters to discuss." "I'm not going anywhere with you," Landre said, though her wolf whined in protest. "I came here for medicine, not to be claimed by a king who's ashamed of me." His gaze flashed dangerously. "Ashamed? You said it yourself. Strongest alpha, weakest wolf, the moon goddess's cruel joke." The words tasted bitter. "I won't be your burden to bear." Something shifted in his expression, a crack in his icy composure. "Ragnar," he called, and a massive beta appeared. "Bring the healer Sana to my study. Tell her to bring remedies for lung sickness." Landra's breath caught. "How did you?" "Your scent carries worry, sickness, fear for another, and you mentioned medicine." His attention never left her. "Your pack member needs healing." "My sister," she whispered before she could stop herself. "Sister," he processed this information. "Then she comes to the Citadel as well. Ragnar, send wolves to Wolf Haven. Find the Omega's sick sister and bring her here gently. Ensure she has everything needed for comfort during travel." "You can't just," Landre started. "I am king," he interrupted. "I can do exactly that. Your sister will receive the best healing in Valderis." He stepped closer, and her wolf practically melted. "But we talk first, alone." Before she could protest, he'd scooped her into his arms. Landre gasped at the contact. Electricity shot through her entire body, her wolf howling in delight while her mind reeled in shock. Strangely, the lingering ache from her journey seemed to fade at his touch, as if his presence itself was healing. "Put me down," she struggled, but it was like fighting stone. "No." He strode through the Citadel doors, ignoring the shocked looks of servants and guards. "You'll run again, and my wolf is barely controlled as it is. I won't chase you through my own castle." His scent enveloped her, pine and winter and raw power, and her wolf wanted to burrow into it. She forced herself to stay rigid, to not lean into his warmth. The king's chamber was immense, adorned with sprawling maps, an arsenal of weaponry, and a fireplace of extraordinary proportions, large enough to comfortably shelter a grown man. He gently lowered her to the floor, then positioned himself deliberately between her and the exit. "Now," he declared, pouring a measure of rich, amber liquid from a crystal decanter. "We discussed terms." "Terms?" Lysandra's voice was a fragile tremor. "Our mating," he clarified, draining his glass in a single, decisive gulp. "You require protection, healing for your sister, and assured security. I require an heir and a functioning wolf. We both understand this arrangement is far from ideal, but the bond is absolute." Each word was a fresh wound, a bitter truth. Lysandra instinctively drew her arms around herself, feeling diminished. "So I'm merely a business transaction." "You are a necessity," he corrected, though a fleeting shadow crossed his features. "My own wolf fell dormant during my youth, a period marked by recklessness. The kingdom believes me to be cursed, diminished. Other packs circle like scavengers, anticipating my demise and the subsequent power vacuum to claim Valdis." He poured another drink, his hand betraying a slight tremor. "Then you appear, an Omega incapable of shifting, and my wolf goes into a frenzy. Do you grasp its current demands?" Lysandra shook her head, speechless. "Claim her, mark her, make her yours, before any other wolf can even cast an eye her way." His knuckles, gripping the glass, turned white. "It yearns to pin you against that very wall." He abruptly halted, turning away with a sharp movement. A wave of heat washed over Lysandra, flushing her cheeks and other, more private areas. Her Omega nature, against her will, responded to his alpha dominance. "But you won't," she stated softly, "because you're ashamed of desiring me." I am ashamed of nothing, he retorted, spinning back to face her. But I will not force a reluctant mate, even if my wolf— He paused, his jaw tight. Even if your wolf what? Even if it is clawing its way from my very skin to reach you, he admitted with harsh finality. 30 years of teetering on the precipice of death, and then you arrive, and it's as if struck by lightning. Every primal instinct screams to claim you before you vanish. A sharp rap at the door interrupted their charged exchange. Sana entered, carrying a medical satchel, her eyes widening at the palpable tension. Your Majesty summoned me, she announced. The Omega's sister requires treatment for lung ailment, Ka stated, his gaze locked on Lysandra. You will have unrestricted resources. Save her. Naturally, Your Majesty. Sana observed Lysandra with a knowing glint. The girl, Zapira, is already en route. Your wolves were remarkably efficient. And Lady Lysandra, I should examine you as well. Your rapid healing is quite unusual for an Omega. Lysandra stiffened. Rapid healing? What nonsense is this? I've observed you for years, Sana continued. Cuts that seal in mere hours. Bruises that vanish by morning. This is not typical, even for wolves. Sana's eyes sparkled with intrigue. There is something extraordinary within your blood. Zapira has arrived. Lysandra interrupted, moving toward the door, desperate to redirect the conversation. Ka caught her arm. The contact sent a jolt through both of them, and his grip immediately softened. Sana will attend to her first. We are not yet finished. The healer bowed and departed swiftly. Alone once more, the air thickened with unspoken emotions. I will not share your bed, Lysandra declared suddenly, her voice laced with desperation. I will not be that kind of mate. A dangerous glint flashed in his pale eyes. You believe I would force you? I believe you are an alpha king who takes what he desires. He moved with astonishing speed, caging her against a bookshelf, his arms encircling her without touching, yet containing her completely. His scent, potent and overwhelming at this proximity, intoxicated her wolf. Let me be unequivocally clear, little Omega. His voice was like rough velvet. When you enter my bed, and you will, it will be because you are begging for it, because your wolf is driving you as mad as mine drives me, because the mate bond demands its fulfillment, and resisting it is pure torment. Lysandra's breath came in ragged gasps. Never! His laugh was a dark, guttural sound. Never. Your scent betrays you. I can detect your arousal. I can taste your longing in the air. Mortification surged through her. She slipped beneath his arm, creating distance. You are mistaken. Am I? He stalked toward her slowly. Tell me you do not feel it. The pull, the need. Tell me your wolf is not crying out for mine. She could not, for it was the truth. Every fiber of her being yearned to bridge the gap between them, to bare her throat in submission, to allow him to claim what the mate bond decreed as his. It matters not what my wolf desires, she countered instead. I am still human. I still possess choice. Choice? He scoffed bitterly. Do you believe I chose this? To desire someone with such intensity that it feels like dying? To have my wolf feral after decades of disciplined restraint? He ran a hand through his pale hair, a flicker of vulnerability crossing his face. You have shattered all I have built, Omega. My control, my detachment, my very sanity. Then reject me, she cried out. End this before it progresses further. I cannot. His roar vibrated the window panes. His eyes now blazed with pure gold. His wolf was surfacing. Do you not comprehend? 30 years of nothingness, and then you. My wolf would sooner perish than relinquish you. It has already begun marking you. What? Lysandra's hand flew to her throat, but her skin was unmarked. Not physically, not yet, he clarified, his voice strained. Spiritually, energetically. Other wolves will detect my mark upon you. They will know you are claimed, even without a physical bite. It has already commenced, whether we wish it or not. As if to underscore his assertion, the door swung open, and a servant entered with refreshments. a single glance at Lysandra, and the servant immediately bared their throat in a gesture of submission. See, Ka stated grimly, in their eyes, you are already their queen. Before Lysandra could formulate a reply, her sister's voice echoed from the hallway, rendering everything else insignificant. Lysandra stared at the servant, who remained in their submissive posture, awaiting her acknowledgement. She had never experienced such a gesture. Omegas were always relegated to the lowest strata, never receiving submission. You may go, she managed awkwardly. The servant rose, bowing deeply. Yes, my queen. I am not... But they were already gone. You will need to acclimate, Ka remarked, his composure slowly returning, though flecks of gold still lingered in his eyes. Like it or not, you are my mate. In their perception, that elevates you to the Alpha Queen of Vidar. This is madness. Lysandra sank into a chair, feeling utterly overwhelmed. This morning, I was a nobody, less than nothing. And now you are the most powerful woman in the Northern Territories. He regarded her with an unreadable expression. The irony is not lost on me. A commotion from outside drew their attention. The door burst open, and Zapira rushed in, remarkably alive and breathing freely for the first time in months. Liza! The 14-year-old hurled herself into her sister's arms. The healer! She did something miraculous. I can breathe. And in this castle, there are actual wolves who can transform into people, and they called you queen. Slow down. Lysandra embraced her tightly, tears streaming down her face. Her sister was well. After months of watching her fade, Zapira was vibrant once more. Your Majesty. Sana appeared in the doorway. The young one's lungs were compromised, but not beyond repair. With dedicated care and my remedies, she will make a full recovery. And I must say, her response to healing was remarkably swift, almost as extraordinary as her sister's abilities. Then she shall receive every necessity, Ka commanded. His stern features softened almost imperceptibly as he observed the sister's embrace. Thank you, Lysandra whispered, meeting his gaze over Zapira's head. Thank you for saving her. Something shifted in his expression, a fleeting moment she couldn't quite identify. She is pack now. We protect our own. Zapira pulled back, her eyes wide. We are part of a pack, but we have been without a pack since our parents passed. Yes, I am aware, Ka finished. Ragnar is thorough in his intelligence gathering. He addressed Zapira directly. You are now under the protection of the royal pack, both of you, because Lysandra is your mate. Is she? Zapira inquired with teenage directness. Lysandra's face flushed. Yes, Ka affirmed simply, though your sister appears hesitant to embrace that reality. Zapira looked between them, far too perceptive for her age. Is it because she is an Omega? Our parents always insisted that should not matter, that the moon goddess makes no errors. They claimed our lineage was special, even if we could not demonstrate it. Wise parents, Sana murmured, observing both sisters with renewed interest. Zapira, it is complex, Lysandra began. It is not, Ka interrupted. Your sister is my mate. That designates her as the Alpha Queen, irrespective of her rank. Anyone who disputes this challenges me. Will you mark her? Zapira asked innocently. The other wolves said that is what mates do. The temperature in the room plummeted. Ka's hands clenched into fists, his composure visibly fraying. That is sufficient inquiry, Sana interjected quickly, sensing the danger. Young one, allow me to escort you to your chambers. You require rest following your recovery. But now, Lysandra stated firmly. Zapira huffed, but allowed herself to be led away. Alone again, the air crackled with tension. She is correct, Ka said gruffly. Mates do indeed mark each other. My wolf is becoming unhinged, desperate to sink its fangs into your throat to signal to everyone that you are mine. But you will not, Lysandra replied, though it sounded more like a question. Not without consent. He turned away, his gaze fixed on the fireplace. Though resisting the instinct may prove fatal for me. My wolf, already. He stopped, his shoulders tensing. Is what? Resisting my control. It has never behaved this way before. Not in 50 years of existence, but near you. He turned back, his eyes flickering rapidly between pale blue and gold. I should confine you to the tower, for both our safety. Attempt it, Lysandra bristled. I will escape. With what strength? You cannot even shift. The words were harsh, yet his tone conveyed something else. Concern. When did you last transform? Shame washed over her. 2 years ago. 2 years. He stepped closer, his brow furrowed. That is impossible. The wolf spirit requires release, or... His expression cleared with understanding. Or it becomes dormant, as mine did. I could not afford to shift. It demands energy. Calories I simply did not possess. Each attempt left me fainting from exhaustion. His jaw clenched. You were starving. In my own territory, my mate was starving. I was not your mate then. The bond was always present, waiting, he stated harshly. I should have sensed it, should have known. He broke off with a growl. Your Majesty. Thaddeus materialized in the doorway, exercising caution not to enter. The council demands an audience. News of your circumstances has spread. Let them await, Ka snarled. They are questioning the legitimacy of an Omega Queen. Lords Blackthorn and Silverpaw are particularly vocal. The king's eyes blazed gold. They dare. My king, Thaddeus interrupted carefully. Perhaps Lady Lysandra should be present. Allow them to witness the bond themselves. Absolutely not, Lysandra declared. I will not be paraded like my mate. Ka's voice dripped with danger. Like what you are. The words were a sharp blow. Like a possession. You are not a possession, he stated through clenched teeth. But you are mine, as I am yours. The bond. Suddenly a searing pain shot through Lysandra's chest. She gasped, doubling over as agony radiated through her limbs. Her wolf, dormant for so long, was now fiercely struggling to surface. What is happening? She choked out. Ka was instantly at her side, his hand surprisingly gentle despite his earlier anger. Your wolf, in proximity to an alpha, your mate's alpha, is awakening, but you are too frail for a shift. It hurts. I know, he replied, his voice unexpectedly soft. He drew her against his chest, and the pain immediately subsided. My scent will calm it. Do not resist me. She wanted to protest, but could not. His presence was like a balm to the agony. Her wolf practically purred at his nearness, even as her human side remained conflicted. More surprisingly, a warmth spread through her, not merely comfort, but genuine healing, as if his proximity was mending something broken within. The council, Thaddeus reminded from the doorway. Let them fester in hell, Ka growled, but he rose, lifting Lysandra effortlessly. Send them away. Inform them they will meet their queen at my discretion, not before. That will incite further issues. Then let them try. The king's voice held a lethal promise. I haven't engaged in proper combat for years. My wolf would appreciate the exertion. He carried Lysandra through corridors she was too pained to register. Finally, they entered a magnificent chamber, dominated by an enormous bed. Your chambers? She managed through gritted teeth. The queen's chamber is adjacent, through that door, he indicated with his head. But you will remain here tonight, where I can monitor your wolf's awakening. That is inappropriate. Neither is allowing my mate to suffer alone. He settled her onto the bed, and she had to suppress a moan at the overwhelming familiarity of his scent emanating from the fabrics. Your wolf is attempting to emerge after 2 years of dormancy. It could prove fatal without an alpha's presence to ground it. As if to confirm his words, another wave of pain crashed over her, her back arching, bones seeming to fracture and reform. Do not fight it, Ka commanded, his alpha authority washing over her. Submit to it. I cannot, she gasped. Too weak. Then submit to me, he growled. Allow my wolf to aid yours. Before she could respond, He had shifted. The massive white wolf leaped onto the bed, curling around her smaller form. The effect was instantaneous, her pain diminished to a manageable level, her wolf calming at the alpha's presence. She noticed cuts on her hands from gripping the sheets, healing before her eyes, the skin knitting together in moments. She should have protested, maintained her boundaries, but exhaustion was pulling her under, and the white wolf's warmth was incredibly comforting. Against her better judgment, she buried her fingers in his thick fur and allowed sleep to claim her. Just before unconsciousness enveloped her, she heard voices in the hallway, council members demanding answers, Thaddeus holding them at bay. Tomorrow would bring new trials, but tonight, enveloped in her mate's protective aura despite the chasm between them, Lysandra felt safe for the first time in years. Her final thought was dangerously simple. Perhaps being his wouldn't be so unbearable. Then darkness consumed her, bringing with it dreams of frosted eyes, softening with warmth, just for her. Lysandra awoke to sunlight streaming through unfamiliar windows and the absence of warmth beside her. The enormous white wolf was gone, but his scent lingered everywhere, on the silken sheets, in the air, on her own skin. She sat up slowly, surprised to find the pain from the previous night had completely vanished. More than that, she felt stronger than she had in years, as if sleeping beside him had restored something vital within her. "You are awake." Ka stood by the window, impeccably dressed in formal black attire that made his pale hair seem to glow. He did not turn to face her. "How long did I sleep?" 14 hours. His voice was carefully neutral. "Your wolf required the rest. It has been attempting to surface all night." Heat flooded her cheeks as memories returned, crying from pain, clinging to his fur, sleeping curled against a wolf who was, essentially, a stranger. Worse, she recalled how her body seemed to have healed itself throughout the night, cuts and bruises fading as if they had never existed. "Thank you," she said softly, "for staying." "I had no choice." The words were sharp, but she detected an undertone in his voice. "My wolf would not permit me to leave. It seems proximity to you has made control exceedingly difficult." Before she could respond, Thaddeus entered after a perfunctory knock. "Your Majesty, Lady Lysandra, the council is assembled. They grow impatient." "Let them grow more impatient," Ka stated coldly. "My king, Lord Blackthorn, has formally challenged the mating claim. He asserts that without a formal mark, Lady Lysandra's position remains contestable." Lysandra's blood ran cold. "Contestable how?" Thaddeus appeared uncomfortable. "Any unmated alpha can challenge for the right to claim you instead. It is an ancient law, rarely invoked." But the window Ka had been standing beside exploded outward, glass shattering from the force of his fist. Lysandra gasped as she saw his hand, bloody and embedded with shards, begin to heal immediately, the wounds closing before her eyes, just as hers had. "They dare!" he snarled, whirling around. His pale gaze now blazed with pure gold, canines extending. "They would attempt to take what is mine." "Not if you mark her first," Thaddeus advised carefully. "A marked mate cannot be challenged." "No," Lysandra stood, wrapping the blanket around herself like armor. "I will not be marked to satisfy some political maneuver." "This is not a game," Ka growled, his hand now completely healed. "Lord Blackthorn's son is unmated, powerful, and has been coveting the throne for years. If he challenges and wins—" "Wins?" Lysandra interrupted. "You mean fights you for me? As if I am a prize." "That is precisely what it means," Thaddeus confirmed grimly. "Trial by combat, the victor claims the Omega." Rage flooded Lysandra, hot and unexpected. Her dormant wolf stirred, echoing her fury. "I am not property to be won." "No, you are not," Ka agreed, his voice dropping dangerously. "You are my mate, and I will eliminate anyone who presumes to claim otherwise." "There is another matter," Thaddeus continued reluctantly. "Lord Blackthorn has been researching ancient bloodlines. He claims to possess information regarding your lineage, Lady Lysandra, information that could fundamentally alter everything. My lineage? Lysandra frowned. I am an orphaned Omega. There is nothing remarkable about my bloodline. Ka and Thaddeus exchanged a look she could not decipher. We must face them, Ka said finally, but you must be prepared. The council can be quite unforgiving. A knock interrupted them. Sana entered, carrying an elegant gown draped over her arm. The council awaits. Lady Lysandra should be appropriately attired for her initial appearance. The gown was exquisite, a deep midnight blue that would perfectly complement her complexion, with silver embroidery that seemed to shimmer with its own internal light. It was a garment fit for a queen. I cannot wear that, Lysandra protested. You can, and you will, Ka stated firmly. You will face them as my equal, not as the Omega they expect to see cowering. 20 minutes later, Lysandra found herself walking through immense doors into the throne room. The gown fit flawlessly, and Sana had worked a miracle with her hair, braiding it into an elaborate crown that lent her an almost regal air. The healer had also applied a special oil to her neck, which, she claimed, would make the spiritual mark of the mate bond more apparent to other wolves. The moment she entered, she felt the weight of dozens of gazes upon her. Alphas and betas filled the room, all powerful, all judging. She could smell their disdain, their disbelief that this Omega could possibly be their queen. Ka sat on his throne, exuding the presence of an alpha king. As she approached, he rose and descended the steps, offering his hand. The gesture was calculated, conveying respect while simultaneously asserting possession. Lords and ladies of the council, his voice commanded absolute authority, I present Lady Lysandra Nightwhisper, my mate and your future queen. The silence was deafening. Then Lord Blackthorn stepped forward, a formidable alpha with graying hair and cruel eyes. We refuse to acknowledge an Omega queen, he stated flatly. It is an insult to our bloodline, to tradition, to the very essence of Valdris. Murmurs of assent rippled through portions of the assembly. Your opinion is duly noted and entirely dismissed, Ka replied coldly. Then I invoke the right of challenge, Blackthorn announced. My son shall contest for the Omega's hand. But first, he produced an ancient scroll. The council should understand precisely what it is they are contending for. What is that? Ka demanded. Records, Blackthorn replied with satisfaction. Long-hidden records from the archives. The Nightwhisper line is not merely Omega blood. Their lineage traces back to something far more remarkable. With a flourish, he unfurled the ancient document. 3 centuries prior, the last of the Silver Wolves roamed these very lands. They were relentlessly pursued, their very existence extinguished for the potent abilities they possessed. These were wolves capable of mending the injured, fortifying others merely by their presence, and whose very being was revered as divine. Landry's breath hitched. The Nightwhisper family had been the silent custodians of that extraordinary heritage. Blackthorn continued, revealing, They remained concealed amongst the Omegas, an unsuspecting refuge. This young woman carries the genetic essence of the Silver Wolf. That is the reason for her swift recovery. It is why the king's dormant wolf was roused. She is far more than a mere Omega. She is the final vestige of the moon-blessed lineage. The throne room dissolved into pandemonium. Howls of disbelief and awe echoed through the chamber. Amidst the tumult, Lysandra remained utterly still, fragments of understanding coalescing, her uncharacteristic recuperation, her parents' adamant assertions of their distinguished ancestry, Sana's pronouncements concerning her capabilities. If this revelation holds true, a voice projected, then she is not merely deserving of the crown, she is consecrated. She is an affront to nature. The younger Blackthorn advanced, mirroring his father's harsh visage, though with hair of a darker hue. The silver wolves were hunted for a definitive purpose. They are unnatural, inherently perilous. Their power invariably corrupts all that surrounds them. Enough. Kykes' voice sliced through the clamor like a finely honed blade. Whether fact or fiction, she is my destined mate. That alone bestows upon her the right to rule. Then demonstrate it, the younger Blackthorn taunted. Accept my challenge. Let us observe if the king, who remained unmoved for 3 decades, can defend his claim to a silver-blooded Omega." "I accept," Ka responded without hesitation. "No." Lysandra stepped forward, her voice firm. "I will not be bartered over as if I were some trinket." Blackthorn's son interjected, his amber eyes burning with malevolence. "If your lineage is indeed of silver blood, then prove it. Reveal the legendary silver wolf to us. Or are you merely another broken Omega, incapable of even initiating a transformation?" The throng fell into an expectant hush. Lysandra felt her cheeks flush with a potent mix of shame and apprehension. She had not undergone a shift in 2 years. Even if the bloodline were authentic, she was too frail, too deeply wounded. "She needs no proof," Ka rumbled. "Yes," Lysandra declared suddenly, surprising everyone, including herself. "I do." She proceeded to the heart of the throne room, her pulse hammering. If the Silver Wolf bloodline was genuine, if it explained her peculiar healing, then perhaps, just perhaps, it would heed her call. Closing her eyes, she delved deep within herself, past the encroaching fear and doubt, seeking the essence of her wolf. For a fleeting moment, nothing transpired. Then she felt it, not diminished and latent, but poised, coiled like a spring, invigorated by her mate's proximity and ready to manifest. The shift engulfed her with the force of a lightning strike. Agony, certainly, but accompanied by an overwhelming surge of power. An ancient, pure force coursed through her veins like liquid moonlight. Her bones fractured and reformed. Her skin erupted into fur that shimmered like polished metal. And as she opened her eyes in her wolf form, she heard the collective indrawn breath of every wolf present. She was silver, not merely gray or white, but a radiant silver, as though sculpted from the moon itself. And her eyes emanated their own luminescence, a silvery white akin to distant stars. The prophecy, a hushed whisper, followed. The silver wolf who would awaken the dormant king and usher in a new era. "Mine!" Ka's roar reverberated through the entire fortress. He transformed instantly, his immense white form descending from the dais to shield her protectively, possessively. Yet Lysandra did not cower. Her silver wolf stood regally, powerfully, every inch the queen, despite her more diminutive stature. She could now perceive it, the ancestral power coursing through her veins, the gift of healing that had lain dormant, the strength that had awaited the opportune moment to emerge. Upon reverting to her human form, Sana was prepared with a cloak, but Landra stood tall, unashamed, meeting the council's stunned gazes with quiet dignity. "The challenge persists," the younger Blackthorn declared, though his voice betrayed a tremor. "Silver blood or not, she remains unwedded. I claim the right to contend for her." "Then you shall perish," Ka stated plainly, having also reverted to his human form. "Tonight, under the full moon's gaze, and when I have concluded with you, no one shall ever again question her rightful position." As the council dispersed to make ready for the evening's contest, Landre grasped Kykes' arm. "You witnessed it, did you not?" she inquired softly. "When I transformed, you displayed no surprise." He met her gaze, and for the first time, his crystalline eyes held a warmth. "I harbored suspicions the moment you healed with such rapidity. The moment my wolf recognized you as more than simply a mate. You are the miracle I had never dared to anticipate, Lysandra, the legendary silver wolf, concealed in plain sight." "I could have been utterly insignificant," she whispered, "merely an Omega." "You were never merely anything," he retorted fiercely. "But now they all comprehend what I have known from the very instant I first beheld you. You are extraordinary." The confrontation would commence with the fall of night, but for the present, standing beside him with her true nature unveiled, Landre experienced the nascent stirrings of belonging she had never dared to envision. The arena was an ancient structure, hewn directly into the mountainside beneath the citadel. By sunset, thousands of wolves had congregated, news of the impending challenge spreading like wildfire across the territories. An Omega bearing the silver wolf lineage, a king whose latent wolf had awakened after 3 decades, a duel that would determine the kingdom's destiny. Landre stood within the preparation chambers, her hands trembling ever so slightly as Sana assisted her into ceremonial vestments. The fabric itself was ancient, interwoven with silver thread that seemed to react to her presence, emitting a faint luminescence in the flickering torchlight. "You are not obligated to observe," the healer stated gently. "Many mates elect to await such events elsewhere, far from the arena." "He is fighting for me," Landra replied, testing the newfound vigor in her limbs. Ever since her transformation in the throne room, she felt profoundly altered, more robust, more alive, as if embracing her silver wolf had ignited something fundamental within her being. "The least I can offer is my presence as witness." "You harbor affection for him?" It was not a question posed. "I scarcely know him." "The heart does not invariably require extended acquaintance," Sana offered with wisdom, "and your wolves have already affirmed their connection to the silver wolf bloodline. It forms a bond far more profound than that of ordinary wolves. Your gift of healing, it has already begun to affect him, has it not?" Lysandra recalled Ka's hand mending instantly after shattering glass. "What precisely do you imply?" "Silver wolves possess the capacity not only to heal themselves, but also to invigorate their mates and their entire pack. You have been resting beside him, and his physical form is already undergoing changes, becoming more resilient. This is precisely why the silver wolves were so highly prized and so greatly feared." A series of knocks interrupted them. Thaddeus entered, his countenance grave. "Lady Landra, a significant development has occurred. Lord Blackthorn has invoked the ancient right. What does that entail? A combat to the death, no possibility of surrender, no allowance for mercy. Only one wolf shall emerge from the arena alive." He paused, then added, "They have brought forth an implement. Weapons are strictly prohibited in these contests. This is no ordinary weapon. It is wolfsbane extract, refined and highly concentrated. They assert it is intended to equalize the contest against a king emboldened by silver wolf magic." Lysandra's blood turned to ice. "That is poison. It possesses the potential to end his life." "Only if the challenger succeeds in its deployment," Thaddeus explained cautiously. "But yes, it represents a considerable risk." She was in motion before consciously registering her intent, sprinting through the stone passageways towards the king's preparation chamber. She burst through the doorway without the slightest preamble. Ka stood shirtless, ritualistic markings being meticulously applied to his chest by the pack shamans, symbols signifying strength, triumph, and ultimate possession. His pale eyes immediately found hers, and she perceived him instantly assessing her distress. "You are aware of the wolfsbane," he stated quietly. "You cannot engage him in combat, not when poison is involved. I have faced poisoned blades before." But she detected the undertone of concern beneath his casual demeanor. "Not on my behalf," she pleaded desperately. "This is madness, all because you refuse to mark me without my consent." A flicker of something crossed his gaze. Heat, a raw hunger, desire barely contained. "Would you prefer I had taken that prerogative from you? Bitten you without your permission, like the very animal they deem me to be?" "I would rather you not perish defending my honor." He moved towards her, and the shamans wisely withdrew. This close, she could feel the intrinsic connection between them, vibrating with potent energy, a force amplified since her transformation. His hand ascended to cup her face, and she experienced that peculiar warmth flowing between them. Her silver wolf magic, recognizing its destined mate. "Your honor is indeed worth dying for," he murmured softly. "You are worth dying for." "Why?" The word escaped as a desperate plea. "Why do you care so profoundly? You know so little of me." "Do I not?" His thumb traced the contour of her cheekbone. "I am aware that you expended your final coins to procure medicine for your sister. I am aware that you abstain from food so that she may eat. I am aware that you have refrained from shifting for 2 years because you prioritize her needs above your own wolf's primal instincts. I am aware that you confronted me, the Alpha King, without a trace of trepidation, and faced the entire council with a degree of dignity exceeding that of many queens born to their station. That is not all. I am aware that your preferred fragrance is lavender, because your eyes soften perceptibly when you pass by the gardens. I am aware that you unconsciously lean to your left to compensate for your weakened right ankle, an old injury that had never truly healed until last night. I am aware that you speak in your sleep, calling out for parents who perished protecting you. Lysandra's breath caught in her throat. How could you possibly know that last detail? Because I have been observing you as you slept for the past 2 nights, resisting every instinct that urges me to claim you, to finalize our bond. His gaze briefly shifted to a pure gold. I know you, Lysandra Nightwhisper. Perhaps not every minute detail of your past, but I know your heart, and it is the most exquisite entity I have ever encountered. Tears streamed down her cheeks. Ka, if I should perish tonight, at least I will have known you. To have felt something again after 30 years of utter emptiness, that is a price worth any sum. She kissed him. It was unplanned, unconsidered. One moment she was weeping, the next her lips were pressed against his, desperate and fierce. He froze for a fraction of a second, then responded with 30 years of pent-up yearning. His arms encircled her, drawing her against him, and she felt the bond between them ignite with blazing intensity. Silver and white fire intertwined. When they finally broke apart, both were breathing heavily. His eyes were pure gold, his control hanging by the thinnest of threads. Do not perish, she commanded, her voice hoarse. That is an order from your queen. His smile was wild, predatory. Yes, my queen. An hour later, the arena was teeming beyond its capacity. The full moon hung directly overhead, bathing everything in an ethereal glow. Lysandra stood upon the royal platform, Zephyra at her side, encompassed by the royal guard. Below, 2 wolves entered from opposing sides. The younger Blackthorn had transformed into a dark brown wolf, immense and bearing the scars of numerous previous confrontations. Around his neck hung an apparatus of sorts, leather infused with wolfsbane, designed to release its venom into his claws and fangs during the conflict. But it was Ka who captured every eye. His white wolf form appeared to radiate under the moonlight, larger than any wolf had a right to be, moving with a lethal elegance. She could discern a faint shimmer surrounding him, a blessing from her silver wolf magic, fortifying him, whether she had intended to bestow it or not. There was no formality, no countdown. Blackthorn attacked immediately, lunging for the throat with venom-laced fangs. Kikes evasively twisted, but not swiftly enough. The challenger's claws raked across his flank, and Lysandra witnessed the wolfsbane's effect with stark clarity. The wounds did not mend as they should have. Instead, black veins spread beneath his pristine white fur. The crowd roared. Laundry clutched the railing, her newly awakened wolf growling fiercely within her. Blackthorn pressed his advantage, employing the poison with calculated precision, inflicting minor wounds that refused to heal, gradually weakening the king. It was a strategy both brilliant and brutal, a death by 1,000 cuts. But Ka was learning, adapting. He ceased attempting to heal and commenced fighting in an entirely different manner, utilizing his superior size and strength to maintain a distance from Blackthorn. When he finally delivered a blow, it was devastating. His jaws clamped down on the challenger's foreleg with a crack that reverberated throughout the arena. Blackthorn howled, now limping, but the wolfsbane collar remained intact. He circled wearily, seeking another opening. It was then that Lysandra felt it. A pull on her magic, desperate and instinctive. Kikes' wolf was calling out to hers, not consciously, but through the powerful bond that connected them. He was succumbing to the poison. His body was beginning to falter. Without a second thought, she responded. A silver light erupted from her hands, imperceptible to most, but blazing brightly to those possessing magical sight. It flowed across the arena, enveloping Ka like a protective shield. The black veins of wolfsbane began to recede. Her silver wolf magic was actively burning the poison away. She is aiding him, Lord Blackthorn exclaimed. That constitutes interference. The match is nullified. The mate bond permits it. Sana's voice rang out with unassailable authority. Silver wolf magic has always functioned in this manner. They are but a single soul inhabiting two bodies. To forbid her assistance is to forbid him from utilizing his own inherent strength. The assembly fell silent, observing in awe as the king's wounds began to close, the poison rendered inert by his mate's potent magic. The younger Blackthorn witnessed this as well, a sense of desperation creeping into his amber eyes. He launched one final, desperate assault, hurtling himself towards Ka's throat. But the king was prepared. With power amplified by silver, he intercepted the challenger mid-leap, his jaws closing around his neck, not at the collar, but just beneath it. A moment of profound stillness ensued. Then Blackthorn went limp. The challenge concluded. The arena erupted into pandemonium. Cheers, shouts, howls of triumph. But Lysandra was already in motion, transforming into her silver wolf form mid-leap as she vaulted from the platform to the arena floor. She reached Kykes just as he collapsed, the cumulative effect of the wolf's bane finally overwhelming him. Her silver wolf pressed against his white one, and she poured every ounce of her healing magic into him, oblivious to who might be watching, concerned only with saving him. "Please," she implored through their shared bond, "do not leave me." His eyes fluttered open, meeting hers, a pale blue flecked with gold, warm and alive. Never came his response through their connection. "But mark me. Complete the bond. Allow me to be yours, just as you are mine." She did not hesitate. Still in her wolf form, she bit down on his neck, claiming him before the astonished eyes of thousands. The instant her teeth broke the skin, power surged between them, a silver and white light so brilliant it made the full moon itself appear dim. When the light receded, both had reverted to their human forms. Kykes pulled her against him, unconcerned by their audience, and returned the mark, his teeth sinking into the juncture of her neck and shoulder. The completed bond felt akin to returning home. She could perceive everything, his thoughts, his emotions, his absolute devotion, and he could sense hers, including the love she had been attempting to suppress since the moment he had saved Zephyra. "My queen," he murmured against her skin. "My silver wolf, my salvation, my king," she replied, holding him just as tightly. "My mate, my chosen." Lord Blackthorn approached, his face a mask of stone. His son's body lay cooling on the arena sand, but he dropped to one knee, bowing his head. "I acknowledge the bond," he stated formally. "The silver wolf has made her choice, and the king has proven his rightful claim. Long live the queen! Long live the queen!" The crowd echoed the chant. Thousands of voices united in their acceptance of what they had witnessed. Not merely a mating, but the return of something legendary. As Kykes helped her to stand, and the crowd continued to cheer, Lysandra felt a subtle shift in the atmosphere. Far to the east, she sensed a darkness stirring, as though her awakening had somehow provoked something ancient and hostile. But that was a concern for tomorrow. Tonight she was marked, mated, and crowned in the eyes of all who mattered. The Omega who could not shift had become the Silver Queen, and by her side stood the king whose frozen heart she had thawed, whose dormant wolf she had awakened, whose soul was now permanently entwined with hers. Together they faced their people, prepared for whatever challenges lay ahead. 6 weeks after the confrontation, Landra stood on the citadel's highest balcony, observing the sunrise paint the mountains in hues of gold. Her neck still tingled where Ka's mark rested, a perpetual reminder of their profound connection. Through their shared link, she sensed his approach before hearing his footsteps. "You are awake early," he commented, wrapping his arms around her waist from behind. Through their bond, she felt his contentment, his wolf's satisfaction at her proximity. "I could not sleep," she admitted, leaning back against his chest. "I keep experiencing dreams, visions of shadowy forms in the east, wolves composed entirely of darkness." His arms tightened around her. "The council received disquieting reports yesterday. Several eastern packs have fallen silent. No communication for weeks. Connected to my awakening? It is possible." He pressed his lips to her mark, sending shivers through her. "Sana theorizes that your emergence as a silver wolf has awakened other ancient forces, some beneficial, others less so." he appeared in the doorway, bowing deeply. "Your Majesties, I beg your pardon for the interruption, but we have guests, wolves from various territories, all claiming to have felt the Queen's awakening." They descended to the throne room to find it thronged with unfamiliar faces. Some wore the opulent attire of nobility, others the rugged leathers of frontier packs, but all shared a striking commonality: eyes touched with silver, some more pronounced than others. An elderly woman stepped forward, her eyes fully silver, mirroring Landry's. "Your Majesty," she addressed Landry directly, disregarding the protocol that mandated addressing the king first. "I am Minerva Moonrider, custodian of the hidden bloodlines. We have awaited your awakening for 3 centuries. "Hidden bloodlines?" Lysandra inquired, taking her designated place on the queen's throne, which had been positioned adjacent to Kykes's. When the silver wolves were nearly driven to extinction, some managed to survive by concealing themselves amongst ordinary wolves, suppressing their innate gifts, and engaging in strategic mating to preserve their lineage while evading detection. Minerva gestured towards the assembled wolves. "We are their descendants. Diluted, yes, but when you assumed your full silver wolf form, every trace of silver blood across the territories sensed it." "How many?" Ka inquired, his tactical mind already engaged. 47 have responded to the call thus far," Minerva replied. "More arrive daily. Most cannot achieve full silver wolf form like the queen, but we possess gifts, healing, foresight, the ability to strengthen others." A younger man stepped forward, barely out of his teenage years. "Your Majesty, I am Jasper Moonwhisper." "No relation to your lineage, despite the similar surname," he added hastily. "I have been experiencing visions since you transformed. Dark wolves rising from blighted ground, led by an ancient entity. They are coming for you specifically." Lysandra felt Caillou tense beside her. "How much time do we have?" "Days at most," Jasper replied, his silver-touched eyes becoming distant. "They move like specters, corrupting everything they touch." "Then we shall prepare," Landra declared, standing. "All silver-blooded wolves are welcome here. We will train together, hone our gifts, and confront this threat as a unified pack." Over the ensuing days, the citadel transformed into a vibrant training ground. Landra worked diligently with each silver blood, assisting them in unlocking their latent abilities. She discovered that her own gifts extended far beyond mere healing. She possessed the capacity to bolster entire groups of wolves simultaneously, could sense threats from considerable distances, and could even purify corrupted land with a mere touch. Ka observed from the edge of the training grounds as she guided a young girl struggling to initiate a shift. "You are in conflict with yourself," Lysandra advised gently. "The silver wolf is not a separate entity from you. It is intrinsically you, merely in a different form." The girl closed her eyes, and suddenly a silver light erupted around her. When it dissipated, a small silver wolf stood where she had been, yipping with joy. "Magnificent," Ka murmured through their bond. "She simply required encouragement," Lysandra replied in kind, warmth flooding through her at his praise. That evening, as they rested entwined within their shared dwelling, Ka lightly traced patterns upon her exposed shoulder. "The eastern packs have completely gone silent," he murmured. "Ragnar's scouts are reporting a pervasive sickness spreading, wolves transforming into creatures of pure shadow." Lysandra confirmed, the ancient adversary Minerva once spoke of. The very reason silver wolves were initially brought into existence, to contend with the Shadow Sovereign. Ka questioned, "You believe he has returned?" Lysandra replied, "I believe something has." "My own awakening," she explained, turning in his embrace to face him, "didn't merely reawaken the silver lineage. It stirred whatever has been dormant in the east." He cupped her face, his thumb gently stroking her cheek. "Then we will face it together. The silver wolves and the crown unified." "Together," she agreed, sealing the sentiment with a deep kiss. Their intimate moment was abruptly shattered by the strident clang of alarm bells echoing throughout the citadel. They quickly donned their attire, hurrying to the ramparts where Thaddeus awaited with the guard. "Your Majesties," he announced, gesturing towards the eastern thoroughfare. Refugees. Through the encroaching darkness, a multitude of wolves emerged, hundreds of them, fleeing in utter disarray. Behind them, Landra glimpsed something that chilled her to the bone, shadows that moved with a disquieting autonomy, unmoored from any light source, slithering across the ground like viscous liquid, obliterating all they touched. "Open the gates," she commanded resolutely. "Get everyone inside." The refugees streamed through the portals, many collapsing from sheer exhaustion. Among them, Landra recognized the Alpha of the Eastern March, a wolf whose pride had clearly been broken. "Your Majesty," he gasped, "the shadows descended 3 nights ago. Anyone they touch is altered. Not deceased, but not truly living. They serve something that calls itself the Void King." Minerva, appearing beside them, clarified, "The Shadow King's true designation. He who existed before the genesis of wolves, seeking to plunge the world back into primordial gloom." "How do we combat shadows?" Ka demanded. "With light," Landry stated, sudden clarity dawning within her. "That's precisely why silver wolves were created. We are not merely healers, we are manifestations of moonlight, the inherent antithesis of shadow." She moved to the edge of the battlements, gazing out at the approaching gloom. Without hesitation, she transformed into her silver wolf form and let out a howl, a sound resonating with power, defiance, and an unyielding challenge. Every silver blood within the citadel responded in kind, their synchronized howls weaving a harmonious symphony that caused the very air to thrum. The encroaching shadows faltered, recoiling from the citadel's defenses. Yet within that oppressive darkness, eyes began to open, not 2, but thousands, all fixated upon Landra with an ancient, venomous hatred. "Silver Wolf," a voice like grinding stone reverberated across the expanse. "You should have remained hidden. Now you will witness your world consumed by darkness, commencing with your beloved." Dark tendrils shot towards Ka with impossible speed. Landra reacted instinctively, leaping between them, her silver luminescence flaring into a protective shield. The shadowy appendages struck and dissolved, but the impact sent her reeling. Ka caught her, his own eyes burning with a golden fury. "Enough defense," he snarled. "We take the fight to them." "Not yet," Landra stated, reverting to her human form. "We are not prepared, but I know how to procure us time." She summoned the silver bloods to the walls, instructing them to form a contiguous circle. "Channel your light through me," she commanded. "Trust in me." They joined hands, and Landra felt their collective power surge into her. It was an overwhelming, intoxicating sensation, a torrent of energy far beyond what any single wolf was meant to contain. Yet she managed to harness it, shape it, and unleash it as a radiant pulse of pure silver light, expanding outward like an immense dome. The shadows struck the barrier and shrieked, recoiling beyond its perimeter. The citadel was secure for the moment. Landra collapsed, instantly supported by Kai. "The barrier will hold for 3 days, perhaps 4, she gasped. "We must rally all the packs, properly train the silver bloods, and ascertain a means to combat an entity composed of living darkness." "You accomplished it," he breathed, awe coloring his tone. "You actually repelled the Void King." "Temporarily," she corrected. "He is ancient, formidable, and deeply enraged. This was merely the initial trial." Over the subsequent 2 days, wolves arrived from every dominion. The threat posed by the Void King had forged an unprecedented alliance amongst packs that had been adversaries for generations. Lords who had once contested Lysandra's rightful claim to the throne now implored her for succor. She worked ceaselessly, rigorously, training the silver bloods, fortifying the barrier, and poring over ancient texts with Minerva in search of any vulnerability the Void King might possess. On the second evening, Minerva indicated a passage within an ancient tome. The Void King was vanquished once before, imprisoned by 13 silver wolves who sacrificed their lives to forge a sanctuary of eternal luminescence. 13, Landra murmured. We possess 47 silver bloods, though only a select few can achieve their full wolf form. You are inherently more potent than the ancient silver wolves, Minerva asserted. Your lineage is untainted, amplified by your mate bond with an alpha king. You may not require such a sacrifice if an alternative can be discovered. On the third night, as the barrier began to flicker and wane, Landry stood with Ka on their balcony, observing the encroaching darkness pressing against her shimmering silver dome. I will not permit you to offer yourself as a sacrifice, he stated softly, their bond allowing him to perceive her intentions. And I will not allow our people to perish, she countered. There must be another path. What if there is? Zephyra's voice startled them both. The young girl stood in the doorway, her eyes betraying the faintest hint of silver. What if the solution lies not in sacrifice, but in unity? What do you mean? Lysandra inquired, drawing her sister into a close embrace. The ancient chronicles declare that 13 silver wolves perished individually to construct the prison, Zephyra elucidated, presenting a different tome she had been studying. But what if they did not need to die? What if they merely needed to amalgamate their power, much as you did to erect the barrier? Landra's eyes widened. Not 13 deaths, but 13 silver wolves channeling their essence together. With you as the focal point, Ka added, comprehension dawning on his features. And with the mate bond amplifying your strength, Lysandra concluded, we could forge something far more enduring than the ancient prison, not merely containing the Void King, but utterly annihilating him. Dawn broke on the fourth day as the barrier finally failed. Shadows surged against the diminishing silver radiance, and within their depths, the Void King materialized in a tangible form, a colossal, wolf-shaped entity of pure darkness, its myriad eyes fixed upon the citadel. Silver Queen, his voice boomed across the embattled expanse, your light wanes, your defenses crumble. Surrender, and I shall expedite your transformation into shadow. Never, Landry called back, her voice carrying to every defender stationed upon the walls. You seek to relegate the world to darkness? You shall have to surmount all of us first. She turned to the gathered silver bloods. 13 volunteers. I require the most potent among you to channel with me. This endeavor will be fraught with peril. Every single silver blood stepped forward. Tears welled in her eyes. I can only select 13 for the ritual, but all of you, every last one of you, will be crucial in maintaining our position while we undertake this task. Minerva identified the 12 most formidable individuals, those capable of partially assuming their silver forms. They formed a circle within the courtyard, with Landra at its very center, while the remaining silver bloods and the regular wolf warriors prepared to defend the ramparts. Whatever transpires, Lysandra told Ka, her voice laced with emotion, know that I love you. And I love you, he replied, kissing her with fierce intensity. Now, save our kingdom, my queen. The shadows breached the failing barrier like a deluge of black ink. Wolf warriors met them head-on, led by Ka in his magnificent white form. The engagement was savage, a brutal clash of shadows against fang and claw, darkness attempting to corrupt all it touched. In the courtyard, Landre and the 13 began their sacred rite. They transitioned into their wolf forms, 12 partial silver wolves encircling one pure silver queen. Energy flowed between them, intensifying with each inhalation, each heartbeat synchronized through her profound bond with Ka. Landre sensed his struggle, felt his unwavering resolve and love bolstering her own strength. She drew upon that connection, leveraging it to magnify the silver light coalescing within their circle. Then she howled, and 13 voices joined as one. A pillar of silver light erupted upwards, piercing the very clouds. It radiated outward in relentless waves. Each pulse annihilated shadows, purified corrupted wolves, and repelled the encroaching darkness. The Void King roared in agony and fury, his form beginning to disintegrate. Impossible! I am eternal! I am— You are nothing, Lysandra declared, her voice resonating with the combined might of 13 silver wolves, amplified by their mate bond and bolstered by the profound love of her pack. You are the absence of light, and we are the children of the moon. Be gone. The final surge of silver light was so incandescent it transformed night into day. It struck the Void King directly, and he screamed as his form unraveled, his countless eyes extinguishing one by one until only ephemeral wisps of shadow remained, dissipating in the silver radiance that now bathed the entire battlefield. Corrupted wolves were freed, shadows evaporated, and the eastern darkness that had threatened to engulf all was vanquished. Lysandra collapsed, caught by the other silver bloods as she fell. Yet a smile graced her lips, for through her bond, she felt Ka racing towards her, alive and victorious. He shifted mid-leap, catching her in his human form and drawing her close. You did it, he breathed against her hair. You saved everyone. We did it, she corrected, glancing at all the assembled silver bloods, the wolf warriors, her sister, her pack. All of us. The Omega who couldn't shift, Zephyra stated with a broad grin, became the queen who saved the realm. The Alpha King, who couldn't feel, Lysandra added, tenderly touching Ka's face, became the king who led with love. As the sun fully ascended, bathing the citadel in a golden hue, wolves from every territory howled in joyous celebration. The Void King was no more. The shadows had receded, and the silver wolves had returned to safeguard the realm. Later, within the privacy of their chambers, Ka held Landre close. No regrets? He inquired softly. How could I possibly regret this? She gestured towards the window, where wolves continued their revelry below. 6 weeks ago, I was starving in an alley. Now I am queen, bonded to a king who adores me, surrounded by family I never knew I possessed, and we have just saved the world. He chuckled, his laughter rich and warm. When you put it that way, it does sound rather remarkable. The moon goddess knew precisely what she was doing, Lysandra remarked, tracing his mark upon her neck. Pairing the mightiest alpha with an omega who carried the silver wolf lineage. You needed someone to awaken your dormant wolf, he finished, and you required someone to help you discover your true potential. Perfect matches are not defined by conventional power, she mused. They are forged by two souls who perfectly complement each other. The stoic Alpha King who never desired a mate, she teased gently, until a forlorn, rejected Omega made his wolf abandon all restraint. He completed, pulling her into an embrace, a kiss that, even after all they had endured, still made her wolf sing with unadulterated joy. Outside, the celebrations continued unabated. The silver wolves would remain as guardians of the realm, led by their queen, who had risen from obscurity to achieve legendary status. The Omega, whom everyone had dismissed, had ascended to become the most formidable queen in Valdra's history. But within the sanctuary of their chambers, they were simply Landre and Ka, two souls who had found one another against insurmountable odds, their love having quite literally saved the world. And somewhere beyond the mortal plane, the moon goddess smiled. Her plan, meticulously conceived over centuries, had finally reached its glorious culmination. The silver wolves were restored. The ancient evil was vanquished. And love, in its purest form, had triumphed over all.